Imagine standing in the comfort of your home, surrounded by familiar walls, the gentle hum of daily life cocooning you in safety. Now, contrast that feeling with places on our planet, where survival is anything but certain. Vast stretches of land and imposing natural features, some crafted by nature, others by human ambition, test the very boundaries of what humans can endure. These are not the places we associate with comfort or safety. Instead, they are known as death zones or deadly lands, regions so inhospitable that even the briefest human presence carries grave risk. Here, the balance between survival and peril is razor thin, reminding us that while the earth can be nurturing, it also harbours environments where life teeters on the edge. Consider first the slopes of Mount Everest, the imposing giant that pierces the sky to a dizzying 8,848 metres above sea level. Everest is not just the summit of the world's tallest mountain. It is also the apex of human ambition and the embodiment of peril. Since 1953, when Sir Edmund Hillary of New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay, a Sherpa of Nepal, first stood atop the summit, thousands have been drawn to Everest's allure. For many, the siren call of Everest is irresistible, a chance to test physical limits and taste the euphoria of achievement. Yet Everest is not merely a majestic peak, it is a merciless executioner. Over 340 climbers have lost their lives on its slopes, succumbing to avalanches, brutal weather, exhaustion, or the invisible but lethal dangers of extreme altitude. What makes Everest uniquely deadly is the region above 8,000 metres, ominously known as the death zone. This term is not an exaggeration. At such altitudes, the air thins dramatically. Oxygen is scarce, barely a third of what breathes below. It's an environment where the biological processes essential to human life begin to break down. Hearts struggle to pump what little oxygen remains. Minds become muddled, even hallucinatory. Simple judgments, putting one foot in front of the other, clipping a harness, become Herculean tasks. If unattended, hypoxia sets in, often quietly at first, but progressing towards confusion, pulmonary edema, cerebral swelling, and ultimately, death. Unlike at lower heights, the body cannot acclimatize in the death zone. Time here is measured not in hours, but in precious minutes. Prolonged stints result in irreversible damage. Climbers pushing through this zone face a gauntlet. Freezing winds that can strip warmth in seconds. Temperatures routinely plunging below -30 degrees Celsius, and storms that cloak the mountain in lethal avalanches or blizzards. The terrain is treacherous. Ice cliffs, crevasses, and shifting glaciers test even the most seasoned mountaineers. Fatigue and altitude sickness are constants, their effects amplified with every step closer to the summit. These crushing conditions do not deter the bold or the foolhardy. Stories abound of remarkable feats on Everest. In 1978, Reinhold Messner and Peter Haberle made history by summiting without supplemental oxygen, shattering the notion that such an ascent was even possible. Their feat was more than a physical accomplishment. It was a testament to the depths of human determination and strategic adaptation. 2 years later, Messner returned for the first solo ascent, again forgoing extra oxygen. These tales inspire awe and spark the irresistible human urge to test limits. But they serve as sobering reminders of the mountain's power and the slim margin between glory and tragedy. As dangerous as Everest's natural death zone is, the Earth also bears scars created by human hands, places rendered hazardous by ambition, conflict, or careless experimentation. Grenade Island, a small patch of land off the rugged northwest coast of Scotland, is one such site. In the midst of World War II, the British government, desperate for deterrence against enemy powers, embarked on the covert path of biological warfare. Gruinard, isolated and sparsely inhabited, became the unlikely stage for experiments with one of the world's most deadly bacteria, anthrax. In 1942, under a grim veil of secrecy, British scientists released anthrax spores onto the island, specifically targeting livestock as test organisms. The results were both immediate and chilling. Within days, the test sheep perished, their bodies riddled with deadly spores. But the consequences would prove far more long-lived than anyone anticipated. The soil of Gruinard became saturated with anthrax, a bacterium known for its resilient spores, tiny, impervious particles able to survive decades in the earth. The island, once a quiet outpost, morphed into a forbidden zone where setting foot risked lethal exposure. Recognizing the severity of the contamination, the British government declared Gruinard off-limits, quarantining it for the safety of the public. For over 4 decades, Gruinard was shunned. Generations grew up with the knowledge that even the wind over the island might carry death to the mainland. Early attempts at decontamination were fruitless, in many ways illustrating the sinister longevity of certain biological agents. The lesson was clear. In pursuing weapons to counter an enemy, the consequences can echo decades beyond the immediate aims. Public complacency began to wane in the 1980s, when a mysterious activist group, calling themselves Operation Dark Harvest, took matters into their own hands. Harvesting contaminated soil from the island, they deposited samples at various locations around the UK, drawing dramatic attention to the unresolved danger and pressuring the government to act. The audacity of the operation underscored deep public anxiety around the military's use of science and the ethics of biological warfare. It was not until 1986 that meaningful steps were finally taken. The government initiated a painstaking decontamination operation, saturating the island's topsoil with formaldehyde and then excavating contaminated earth. The process was laborious and fraught with uncertainty. By 1990, Gruinard was officially declared safe. The quarantine lifted after nearly 50 years. Today, Gruinard stands as a cautionary tale, a legacy not just of scientific progress, but of moral responsibility. The contamination lingered far longer than anyone predicted, serving as a somber warning of the consequences of unleashing potent biological forces. Across the globe, in the desolate landscape of Central Asia, another man-made death zone waits in eerie silence, Vozrozhdenia Island. Once a speck in the middle of the now-vanished Aral Sea, this island was chosen by the Soviet Union during the Cold War for an even darker purpose. Where Gruinard was an experiment, Vozrozhdenia became the epicenter of a vast, secret program known as Aralsk 7, one of the world's largest biological weapons testing facilities. When we tally the dangers of the world's most lethal places, whether crafted by nature or by human hands, certain themes emerge. The death zone atop Everest is a product of geology and climate, a place where the body surrenders to physics and biology. Gruinard and Vozrozhdenia, meanwhile, were conceived from fear and scientific curiosity, transformed into realms so hazardous that life was forcibly banished for decades. Each has exacted a terrible price from those who ventured within, be they mountaineers pursuing glory, researchers advancing human knowledge, or bystanders caught in the crossfire of progress and politics. Yet, intertwined with these tales of loss and danger is the unquenchable spark of human resilience. Climbers who summit Everest without oxygen are not merely challenging a mountain. They are confronting the ultimate limitations of the human body and mind. Scientists who open the history books on Gruinard and Vozrozhdenia are reminded of the ethical lines that once crossed are hard to redraw. In both cases, the lesson is the same. Ambition unchecked by wisdom can render any place unsafe. Humility before nature and respect for consequence must guide our most daring endeavors. Perhaps the most profound realization drawn from these death zones is just how dependent survival is on balance, environmental, ethical, and technological. Everest's icy, oxygen-starved peaks contrast sharply with the cozy, oxygen-rich lowlands where we live, yet they are, fundamentally, the same planet. The lush Scottish mainland lies just across the water from the once blighted soil of Gruinard. The receding Aral Sea, ravaged by human hands, exposes the bare bones of scientific overreach. In all of these places, the edge between life and death is razor thin, propelled by forces that can be either harnessed for greatness or unleashed with irreversible consequences. Today, the stories of Mount Everest, Gruinard Island, and Vozrojdeniya Island serve not merely as cautionary tales, but as guideposts for the future. They challenge us to respect the limits set by the natural world and to exercise restraint in our scientific endeavors. They remind us that the pursuit of knowledge or glory must be matched by the exercise of responsibility. One cannot help but reflect on the words of climbers or the whispered warnings of those who once worked in forbidden laboratories. In some places, the price of ambition is measured not just in risk, but in lives irrevocably altered, sometimes lost. As we chart the boundaries of the deadliest places on Earth, we learn that these environments are not defined solely by the presence of danger, but by the choices that brought us there or drive us to test their limits. Mount Everest will always be there, silent and immense, daring the next generation to ascend. Gruinard and Vozrojdeniya may one day return to the normalcy of undisturbed land, but their stories endure, reminders that even after the dangers have faded, the lessons remain vital. In the end, the Earth's deadliest places are mirrors, reflecting the best and worst of human nature. They capture the heights of bravery, the depths of folly, and the endless dance between risk, reward, and consequence. Respecting their legacy means remembering the delicate balance between human curiosity and humility. It means acknowledging that while survival is an ancient struggle, the wisdom to know when to press forward and when to turn back is our most powerful tool. For as long as humans walk the earth, there will be new frontiers to explore, new zones of danger and opportunity. The lessons of Everest, Gruinard, and Vozrojdeniya will always be close behind, guiding each step at the edge of the possible.